This is KHQ Nonstop Local at 6:30.
You know who you are. Just end it.
A promise made.
To whomever did it, if they're watching, we will find whatever we need to find you.
A promise kept.
Detectives arrested 28-year-old Brian Christopher Kohlberger.
47 days after 4 University of Idaho students were stabbed to death in their beds. Police work done the hard way. One piece of evidence at a time. Led them to a home 2,500 miles from Moscow, Idaho, in Monroe County, Pennsylvania. Moscow Police Chief James Fry promised this case wasn't going cold, and he made good on it today.
What I can tell you is we have an individual in custody who committed these horrible crimes.
At the same time of this announcement, a vigil remembering the lives lost. Ethan, Xana, Kaylee, Madison. Finally, for the first time tonight, a hope for justice.
Families in a community relieved. A suspect, the prime suspect, according to investigators, in custody, 28-year-old Brian Christopher Kohlberger, arrested. An arrest warrant issued, and he was taken into custody early this morning in Monroe County, Pennsylvania. And some brand new information just in on this story at 6:30. Here's what we can tell you confirmed with a legal correspondence there in Pennsylvania, that an extradition hearing is scheduled there in Pennsylvania for 12:30 our time, 3:30 Pennsylvania time. An extradition hearing will be held there in a courtroom in Pennsylvania. Obviously, ultimately expected to be extradited back here. Whether he will fight extradition or not, we don't know. We have not heard from a representative for the prime suspect in the quadruple homicide here in Moscow, Idaho. Team coverage tonight, we have John Webb, Guy Tannenbaum, Ava Wainhouse, Corey Howard, and Claire Graham all joining our coverage at 6:30. I'm Sean Owsley here in Moscow, and we begin with John Webb.
Yeah, good evening, Sean. The suspect was arrested on 4 counts of first-degree murder as well as 1 count as felony burglary. In the state of Idaho, you can face anywhere from life in prison to the death penalty.
These tragic murders took 4 young, vibrant lives from our community. Nothing we do can bring them back. The only thing that we can do in law enforcement to honor their memories that we know of is to bring this to a successful conclusion.
That process is a step closer with the suspect now in custody. Kohlberger, accused and arrested for the murders of Ethan, Kaylee, Madison, and Xana, is being held without bond in Pennsylvania. He has already made a court appearance and is scheduled to make another appearance in Pennsylvania on the 3rd. At that point, the process to extradite Kohlberger will then begin.
He has the opportunity to either waive extradition and return voluntarily to the state of Idaho, or if he prefers not to waive extradition, then we will initiate extradition proceedings through our governor's office.
If he does waive the extradition, we're told it'll take longer for him to return to the state of Idaho. Once he returns, he'll make an appearance before a magistrate judge. The affidavit has been sealed until he's extradited back to the state of Idaho, but once it's released, it will explain the basis police had to make an arrest. Even though an arrest has been made, Latah County prosecuting attorney Bill Thompson reminding the public that this is not over.
This is not the end of this investigation. In fact, this is a new beginning.
Tonight, he's urging the public with any information about Kohlberger to come forward to police. Any tip or detail could help with the prosecution of this case. You can reach the tip line at 208-883-7180 or by emailing Moscow Police at tipline@ci.moscow.id.us. Tonight, the University of Idaho President Scott Green thanking police and the community.
We are truly thankful for the compassion and acts of kindness shown to our community. Kindness is contagious, and it provided the light that reclaimed ground lost to evil and darkness.
Green thanked Governor Brad Little for allocating $1 million for the investigation. He also thanked Idaho State Police for the assisting patrols throughout the past few weeks. Tonight, he's reminding the Vandal family that we will continue to remain Vandal strong.
With time, we will heal. We will move forward together, and we will remain Vandal strong.
We certainly will remain Vandal strong, and that is something worth noting. A lot of students left campus earlier this semester in fear of a suspect being on the loose. Talking to some of my friends down here at the University of Idaho now, people are expected to be coming back to classes in person and are feeling a little bit better about that tonight. Sean, reporting live in Moscow. John Webb, Nonstop Local.
John, thank you. Well, we have been hearing from families, obviously reacting to this major breaking news, where we were first alerted to it over the last 24 hours. There could be an arrest in this case, and that's in fact happened in the state of Pennsylvania. The prime suspect in custody there in jail without bond. We did receive statements from the families. Ethan Chapin's family sending this statement reading, "We are relieved. This chapter is over. It provides a form of closure. However, it does not alter the outcome or alleviate the pain. We miss Ethan, and our family is forever changed." Over the last 7 weeks, we stood by the Moscow Police Department, FBI, and Idaho State Police, confident they would solve this crime. So when we received the phone call last night, we congratulated them for their diligent work and service. We remain grateful to the University of Idaho and the Sigma Chi fraternity for their ongoing support. We also appreciate the outpouring of kind words from so many others, which we will need as we enter the next chapter of this nightmare. Today we marvel at the continued stories about Ethan and the lives he touched in his 20 years. If we all lived and loved as Ethan did, the world would be a better place. That reaction from the Chapin family, and obviously the developments unfolding. Idaho Statesman reporting that they did check any type of history, any record for the suspect, Kohberger, in both Washington and Idaho. The only thing that showed up was a traffic infraction, a seatbelt violation, and that was in August of this year here in Moscow, Idaho. No other record of any type of altercations with law enforcement. Let's go to Pullman now, live, and our team coverage continues, where authorities served a search warrant at the apartment where Kohberger lived.
Sean, I'm out here in Pullman, like you mentioned, outside Brian Kohberger's apartment where he lived in Pullman while he was studying as a doctoral student at Washington State in their criminal justice program. Let me step aside here. We've been here for the last couple hours, and we've seen some investigators going up and down those stairs that you're looking at right there. I'm not sure if our camera is going to be able to capture it, but there are some plastic bins there that we have seen some investigators, some analysts combing through, trying to, look through some of those items. We've also seen some flashes looking like camera flashes or some flashlights in one of the apartment's windows since we've been here this afternoon and into the evening hours. Take a look at your screen. Again, we'll show it to you one more time. This is Brian Kohberger's mugshot after his arrest today in Pennsylvania, in Monroe County, Pennsylvania, more specifically. There's still a lot of questions surrounding Kohberger, of course, and specifically how police identified him as a suspect and what a motive could be and any potential connections to the 4 victims. This is what Moscow Police Chief James Fry said today at today's briefing in response to almost every reporter there asking those same specific questions. Take a listen.
That's part of our investigation, and we won't be releasing that at this time. We will have those answers. We'll have them as soon as we can make those available.
Latah County Prosecutor Bill Thompson echoing the exact same thing during his remarks at today's press conference. Kohberger was taken into custody today by the Pennsylvania State Police, with the Pennsylvania State Police spokesperson saying Kohberger is from Pennsylvania and he was arrested at his parents' home there in Monroe County. That's the video that you're looking at right now on your screen. Nonstop Local was also able to obtain some of Kohberger's high school photos from Pleasant Valley High School in Pennsylvania, where Kohberger graduated in 2013. He then went on to DeSales University in Pennsylvania, where he graduated with a bachelor's in 2020 and completed graduate studies this past June. He continued on to Washington State University here in Pullman. That's where we got this photo off of their website. He completed his first semester as a PhD student at WSU's criminal justice program earlier this month. And then the video you're looking at now is police and authorities serving 2 warrants in Pullman today. That one there, the one you're looking at, is at his apartment where we're standing earlier this afternoon after Kohberger was arrested. The other was at his office on campus. Back out here live outside of Koberger's apartment, investigators still here on scene, crime scene tape still here. We expect this to be going on through the evening and into the overnight hours. Haven't seen too much movement, but our understanding is that investigators are still inside there and are still working to process Koberger's apartment. Now that Koberger's identity has been made public and he has been arrested in connection with these murders, investigators and authorities asking the public for any more information as they would like to continue this investigation remaining ongoing, asking the public for any more information about Koberger, and they're asking you, if you have anything, if you know anything, to submit that to the tip line. We have that information, of course, on our website. Live in Pullman tonight, Guy Tannenbaum, Nonstop Local.
Guy, thank you. I want to take you back to Spokane, the Nonstop Local newsroom. Claire Graham and Corey Howard continuing our team coverage tonight.
Yeah, Sean and Guy over there in Pullman, we did receive a statement from WSU following Koberger's arrest. They said this horrific act has shaken everyone in the Palouse region, and we want to extend our deepest sympathies to the families, friends, and Vandal colleagues who were impacted by these murders.
We will long feel the loss of these young people in the Moscow-Pullman community and hope the announcement today will be a step toward healing. Now, today we also noticed movement picking up at the home where the 4 students were killed as police brought in professional cleaning crews to start clearing it out.
Chief Fry says they wanted to clean up the biohazards from the crime scene and the chemicals used to process all of it so they could ultimately turn that house back over to the owner and property manager.
While the process began this morning as planned, it also suddenly stopped, which the chief only really offered a brief explanation of.
The house cleanup has been halted, and that came by a legal request from the court.
At this point, it's still unclear why the courts wanted to stop the cleanup and when it could start up again.
There's still a lot of unknowns in this case, but again, to get to this point, police going through 19,000 tips, 300 interviews, so a lot still to look into, and you know, that house could be, they could be looking for something else in there.
And I know they're also still looking for tips, so they've gone through so many already, but they're hoping that they won't stop now. So if you had any interaction with the man that they've arrested, if you know anything that could help, again, police are encouraging you to continue to call that tip line, send them emails, send them digital files. They will absolutely look into whatever you have to offer to them.
Yeah. And we're going to send things back down to Moscow and Sean Owsley. Sean?
All right, Corey and Claire, thank you very much. Well, there were a lot of people that went to Coeur d'Alene today for the sole purpose of celebrating the lives, those young lives lost here in Moscow, Idaho. Ava Wainhouse was there. Cameras were not allowed in, but we can tell you it was full attendance and then some as they recollected how they were impacted by 2 of the victims. Ava.
Sean, that's exactly right. I was able to head inside today just as a member of the community. I graduated from WSU. I went to Moscow daily. I understand the pain that these people have been feeling, so they allowed me in just as a member of the community, and I just instantly saw the love and I felt the support from everyone across the Palouse, the Inland Northwest, gathering today here in Coeur d'Alene to just grieve, but to feel this sense of relief and peace today of all days. This celebration of life has been scheduled for weeks, and then this news coming today, this breaking news, just the timing of it is incredible. Many people spoke out today, including the families of the victims. Kaylee's family describing her as a Spitfire young girl, relentless. Maddie's parents describing Maddie as angelic. But 2 men we haven't heard a whole lot from. 2 young men are the boyfriends of Kaylee and Madison. I want to read to you what Jack said, Kaylee's boyfriend, about his relationship with her. Kaylee understood the value of life. She had a huge desire to fill her days with fun. Her worst days weren't when something bad happened, but rather when something good did not happen. Little did I know God was giving me this beautiful soul I would love for the next 5.5 years of my life. So next spoke Jake, Maddie's boyfriend, who had a lot of things to say just about his relationship with Maddie, just fun things from adventures to golfing and everything, of her being in front of the camera, loving her photo taken. But he just said, I got to spend 2 years of my life being in love with Maddie. They went on to describe moments with these 2 girls. Everyone did, from family members to aunts and uncles and cousins and sisters and sorority sisters. We saw the love here today, and we really just are feeling this sense of peace now, a little bit of peace. Now, this case isn't over yet. We still have a lot of information to go through and to learn. But the people here today in Coeur d'Alene came together simply to celebrate the lives of Kaylee and Madison. Reporting in Coeur d'Alene tonight, Ava Wainhouse, Nonstop Local.
Ava, thank you. As we have been here throughout the day in the Moscow community, obviously they are welcoming this news that finally, after 47 days, as some of them say, they feel a little safer tonight and they want justice served for those that they called friends that were part of this Idaho community, the University of Idaho, where they had dreams that were taken from them in an instant in the early morning hours of Sunday, November 13th. We're going to take a break. You're watching Nonstop Local at 6:30. More on this breaking story when we return. And we'll come back live here in Moscow, Idaho, on the University of Idaho campus. Behind the scenes, what have investigators been doing? What will they do from here on out as they look to build a case against 28-year-old Brian Christopher Kohberger? Well, they didn't reveal much of that in the news conference. They may have. We expected they could. They chose not to, saying this will all come out in the court documents, specifically the probable cause affidavit. I talked in depth this afternoon with a retired agent, special agent for the FBI, who's worked so many cases similar to the one that authorities have been investigating here, for some insight in how the mechanisms of an investigation work. Here's my interview with Rich Kolko.
What stood out to me is we all know how hard these investigators were working. And we talked about previously how it's going to come down to one or two critical issues, pieces of evidence, maybe that tip. And we could see that white car, that white Hyundai, played a pivotal role here. That was some DNA that hadn't been determined who it belonged to before. Those were the 2 points that appear to have led them to this suspect.
NBC News confirming that white Elantra was impounded from the residence where Pennsylvania State Police served that warrant and arrested Brian Kohberger. What does that tell you? Do you think they'll be able to track the route eventually? I would imagine it's building out that timeline of where Kohberger was leading up to the day of the crimes and where he has been since.
When the murder first happened, we talked about building a timeline. At that point, all they could do was start with the murder and work backwards. Where were these four victims? Who had they interacted with? Who did they talk to that night? And then things that occurred at the house that night. Were there cell phones hitting on towers then? Were there cars noticed in the neighborhood? They would have pulled security videos from stores, ATMs, ring videos from any house or apartment in the area that might have a camera, all critical. Now that they've made an arrest in Pennsylvania, they're going to do that timeline again, but now they can work backwards from that arrest. So we know after the murder, it's likely he went back to the university, and at some point he then moved on to Pennsylvania. So they're going to know everything about that trip. Where did he stop and eat? Where did he get gas? Is there a possibility he dropped the weapon somewhere? They'll track money, credit cards, cell phone towers, other videos from gas stations and restaurants, and they want to put that together. Was there somebody else in the car at any time? Was there a possibility he stopped and had dinner or a meal or visited somebody on the way? They need to interview and talk to all those people.
Rich, I would imagine right now, or leading up to the arrest, they are trying to figure out. He was in Eastern Washington, about 10 miles from Moscow, Idaho. He ended up in that house. What is the connecting factor? I'd imagine that's a primary focus, or it has been, and they already know the answer to that.
Well, in the past, the police were building that timeline from the victims backwards. Now they're building the suspect back to that murder scene. Now they're also going to go backwards and find out there had to be some interaction, some motivation. He didn't just drive over to Moscow, Idaho, pick out a house, go inside and kill four people. Something had to have occurred in the past, whether he came across one of these four victims or somebody associated with them, whether it was a bad date, an email, one of his friends said they had an interaction with these students. There's going to be some factor that led him to that home, and police want to find that out. The families want to know about that because that could be the answer to the motivation for why he did this crime.
Well, Rich, I appreciate your time and your insight. Thank you for talking to us and being available on something like this. This community is hurting, and like your perspective, it does help. It provides some context from everybody, so thank you.
Of course.
All right. Thanks, Rich. Take care. Really appreciate it.
Anytime I can help.
My interview with Rich Colco, FBI retired special agent, some unique insight into how it works behind the scenes in an investigation. We're going to take a break. You're watching Nonstop Local at 6:30. We're covering breaking news from Moscow, Idaho.
All right, one last look at that Saturday forecast, the last day of the year, and going to be kind of a gray one out there for us. Patchy, dense fog in the morning, so heads up there. Otherwise, calm winds, and the cloud deck just hangs around all day. Again, looking dry for the fireworks show at the Riverfront Park. That kicks off at 9 o'clock to ring in the new year, but unfortunately looking like a foggy weekend, both Sunday and Monday. That possibility hanging around. A little bit cooler into next week, but we stay dry and fairly quiet all the way until the middle of next week. Our next chance for a few snow showers Wednesday night and into Thursday.
Blake, thank you. Okay, so let's set the stage. Tuesday is the next development legally. We can tell you that the suspect, Brian Koberger, will be in a Pennsylvania courtroom at 12:30 our time. That has been confirmed by the Pennsylvania court system. Extradition is next here to Moscow, Idaho. We'll let you know when that happens. Nonstop Local will continue to bring updates throughout the evening. Our coverage resumes tomorrow on the Wake Up Show at 7 a.m. But as we leave you tonight, the pictures of the 4 victims, the young lives taken too soon, we think about their families in this community. And it is going to be a long road, an arduous road, day to day, week to week, as they try to find whatever the new normal looks like. So our hearts go out to them. We end our broadcast with their young faces, and we think about their families in this tough time. But at least the road to justice has begun.